Well, we're going to step into our teaching series. It's actually the third chapter of our 3-week teaching series called Friending. I want to dive right in today. I want to start with our key thought and our key verse that we've looked at each of the last couple weeks, which is this. You show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. That's just truth. That's just how life works. You show me your friends, and I'll show you the kind of people you're going to become. The people you spend the most time with, that's who you're going to become. That's who I'm going to become. The great wise King Solomon said it this way several thousand years ago. Proverbs 13:20, he said, walk with the wise and become wise. Again, not rocket science. Associate with fools and get in trouble. In other words, you show me your friends and I'll show you who you're going to become. If you hang around passionate, positive, faith-filled people over time, guess what? It's a promise. You will become more passionate. You will become more positive. You will become full of faith. And the opposite is true. If you hang around, you run with people who are critical, who are negative, who just have a bad attitude a lot of the time, it's going to suck you in. It's going to suck you down to that level, and you are going to become more critical, probably without even realizing it. You're going to become more negative. You're going to become one with a bad attitude a lot of the time. Really is true. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Last week, we talked about 3 different types of poverty: material, spiritual, and relational. This is from a sociologist that says these are the different kinds of poverty. We all know what this first one is. It's just being broke. It's being in debt. It's not having stuff. It's not having your physical needs met, material poverty. We also talked about spiritual poverty. We can have a lot of stuff. I think this is common in our culture. We can have a big house and fancy cars and go on big vacations and still have no hope. No hope for today. No hope for tomorrow. No hope for eternity. That's called spiritual poverty. And then, of course, the third type of poverty that we really are talking about in this short teaching series is relational poverty. And the more I've thought about this, the more I think this is becoming an epidemic. This is becoming a common experience for so many of us in our culture, maybe even more of us here at Colonial than we'd like to think. Seems that the financial blessings that a lot of us experience, probably most of us, I mean, we are the richest, the top 2% in the world if you look at what people have, what money people make. And yet with material blessing, there seems to be this weird effect of we find ourselves relationally disconnected. We find ourselves impoverished. There's a whole lot of theories as to why this happens. I think strongly, one of the key reasons that this happens is in our culture, we have been brought up to value independence way up here. We want our kids to grow up and be independent. We want to just tell the world, I don't need anybody. I don't need anything. I got this. I'm self-sufficient. I am independent. We think this way so much that we forget that to be independent is to be distinctly non-Christian. How's that for a truth bomb? Let that sink in for a minute. To be independent is to be distinctly non-Christian. Because God did not create us to be independent. No, to be independent is to be distinctly non-Christian because God created us, humanity, to be dependent on Him and on His people, His family. Dependent on Him and the people in His family. Jesus died for us. Jesus loves us so much. We sing about how death was arrested, life began, and we are created to love each other, to encourage each other, to share with each other, to serve each other, to spur each other on. There's all these each others, one another's, all throughout the New Testament. To be independent is to be distinctly non-Christian. In fact, I think even if we think about the way we talk as Christians, we reveal how we're kind of missing it. I've said this a lot over the years. I'll bet you've said it a lot. If you've come to church a lot, this one or others over the years, you've heard this a lot. You've probably repeated it. Every one of us needs a personal relationship with God. We say that, right? We hear it said. And this is true. This is true. But it's incomplete. Did you know that? It's incomplete. None of us should settle for a personal relationship with God. If by personal, we mean individual. We mean one-on-one. No. There's actually something much better, much fuller, much richer that God invites us into. It's a shared relationship with God. What's way better than experiencing God on your own is experiencing the goodness, the power, the love of God in the context of a broader, deep biblical community. That's what we've been made for. That's the life that's offered to us. And yet, here's the reality. I don't think there's very many of us experiencing this. I don't think there's very many of us in the Western church experiencing this. In our culture, we have so many material blessings, and yet so many of us are relationally poor. Why is that? Let's talk about that for a few minutes. Why is that? Let's take a look at 3 possible causes for relational poverty. And there's a little overlap with some of the things we've talked about and teased these past few weeks. What causes relational poverty? The first one, if you're taking notes today, is because of increased mobility. Again, this is not rocket science. We just don't stick around very long, right? Did you know that the average American moves every 5 years? So for any of you in the room that have lived here for 20, 30 years, think about the person who's evening out that number. They've moved 4 times in 4 years, you know? The average American moves once every 5 years. Some of you that are in the military or in some other vocation that causes you to move around quite a bit, you understand probably more than the rest of us. Did you know that if you're between 20 years old and 40 years old living in America right now, the average actually goes down to every 3 years? We just don't stick around very long. It's hard to have long-term substantive relationships when we don't stick around very long. I don't think that makes us bad people. That's the culture. That's what's normal for us, right? And yet it causes relational poverty. It's one of the causes. Another cause of relational poverty are modern conveniences. And this is fascinating to me. I was actually going through a list. This is a Life Church teaching that we're walking through this series, and there's some examples in there, and I was looking for other examples. Did you know that, think about this, what was life like before the air conditioner? Now, first of all, I don't mean like it sucked. That's the short answer, right? Did you know that the air conditioner, I looked this up, was invented in 1902, okay? It's kind of a long time ago for us. It was invented in 1902. Where did people hang out before the air conditioner? Can you guess? Outside, right? Outside on the front porch, in the front yard. Outside, why? Because it was too dang hot in a house. Especially, can you imagine Texas in about 9 or 10 months out of our year? Nobody wants to be inside. We were at Doug's Lake House. I just thought of this, Doug. We were at Doug's lake house on Lake Kemp, the elders, and the air conditioner went out. What month of the year was that? I don't even know. It was so hot. We just sweat all night. It was awful. I think I slept half an hour. It was amazing. I mean, that was how people lived. You didn't go inside. You hung out outside. What happened when the air conditioner comes along? What do? We all went inside. It's not rocket science. It's logic. We just all went inside. What does that impact? How does that impact relational connection with people? At least a little bit, if not a lot. Or how about another modern convenience, the attached garage? I looked that up. It became commonplace for new houses to have an attached garage in the 1940s. So it's way later than the air conditioner, but it's not that long, about 80 years ago. When attached garages became common, and then, I don't know how much longer, then remote garage door openers became common, we could come home at the end of work or errands or wherever we were, and we didn't even have to wave to our neighbors, right? We just pull right in the driveway, the door's going up, we go in, nobody does this, right? Go in, You turn off the car, do that first, and then you close the door. You haven't even got out of your car yet, right? I do that all the time. What impact? Modern convenience of an attached garage, of a remote control to close the door. One more fun one, and I'm definitely dating myself here, the answering machine. How many of you remember a time before voicemail? Older people in the room, right? Hey, younger folks, there was actually this box, this separate device that it recorded voicemail for you. And so for people that were younger and don't remember that, there was actually a time when if you wanted to know who was calling, you know what you had to do? You had to answer the phone. Isn't that crazy? Do y'all remember that? Some of y'all? If it's ringing, you're like, that could be an emergency, that could be my mom, that could be a sales call. You don't know, you just got to answer the phone. Then everything changed with the answering machine comes along. And now the phone's ringing in your house and you just stare at it. And it rings, and it rings, and it rings, and sometimes it just takes forever, 6, 7 rings because you didn't set it right. And then finally, this outgoing message with your voice says, hey, thanks for calling the Joneses. You can leave a message at the beep. Beep. Hey, Lauren, I'm like, I'm not talking to him, right? We could screen our calls for the first time ever. We could distance ourselves from people. This is reality. There's a list of modern conveniences that are awesome, right? That are good things that help us disconnect, that cause us even to disconnect. Here's a more recent one that's definitely changed friendships drastically: the increase of individualized forms of entertainment. Think about this. If you're my age, I'm 53. If you're in your 50s or older, think about your childhood. What did you do as a kid to have fun? What'd you do? Where'd you go? All of us. We went outside. We went outside. I'm not even saying that was better or worse. We just went. That's what we did. And to play with what? With people, right? With people. And we'd ride bikes, and we'd play in the yards, and we'd throw things, and this is what we did. Today, what's way more normal? Stay inside, computer, iPad, game system, phones. And I'm not even saying that's evil or wrong. I'm saying, just compare, not nearly as much social interaction, not nearly as much connection. In fact, on that note, one more big challenge that's caused relational poverty for sure is a rise in social media. And I hope I've been clear even the last couple weeks. I'm a social media fan in general. I enjoy being on several platforms. It's helped me actually stay connected with people in other states where I used to live. I enjoy getting my news. There's some things about social media that have blessed me for sure. But at the same time, there is no debate. There is no argument that with the rise of social media, there's less face-to-face interaction. That's just how it works. I found a 2018 study that said this: high social media usage increases rather than decreases feelings of loneliness. Now, you probably knew that already intuitively, but that's what this study, I love the title of this study if you can't read it. No More FOMO. Limiting social media decreases loneliness and depression. I think we already know this. What is our experience? We post something, upload a picture, pretty dang quickly, if not immediately, we get response. We get, I like it, that's really cool. Oh, great picture, you look great. And this dopamine hit happens. I'm still trying to understand the physiology of it. And we get this immediate feedback. The problem is that we all know how long it actually takes someone to double click on something and scroll on to something else. I mean, it's not really that big a deal, right? It doesn't take away our loneliness. I think it actually just prolongs it. I think in some ways, and this particular study says it actually increases, not decreases, it increases our loneliness. Something to think about for those of us that spend a lot of time in social media. So many people today have a few hundred Facebook friends, and no one that they can really call if they need to talk about what really matters. So many blessings. We talked about this last week. So many blessings. But I think a lot of us, maybe all of us, can recognize that something's wrong. Something's missing. We talked very candidly last week about maybe it's someone is missing. This week I want to say that it's maybe not just someone that's missing. It could be a whole group of someones. Said another way, our key thought for today as we close out this teaching series on friending is this: we may be one community away from changing the course of our lives. You and I, we may be one community away from changing our very lives. Some people, plural, you could do life with, through the good times and the really rough times. Some people, plural, who lift you up, who pray with you and for you, who encourage you, who always have your back. We may be one community away from changing the course of our lives, from changing the future for our families. We may be one community away from really making a difference with our lives. I'm grateful for a lot of things. In a lot of ways, man, I've thought about this for years. In a lot of ways, I'm living a charmed life. I don't know why I got to be born in the great Republic of Texas. Like, right? Why did I get so lucky? Why did I get to be born in the US of A? Why? Why did I get to have a mom and a dad who really loved each other and stuck it out together to this day? Why me? Why do I get that? Why did I get to have a relatively healthy life physically? So much tragedy, so many physical challenges for so many of my friends, so many of you. Why have I had very few health problems? Why did I get to come right out of the womb a Dallas Cowboys fan? Why, right? Like, so many blessings. But in all seriousness, easily, and I say all that to say, easily the biggest blessing that I can point to in my life, as I list out all the things I'm grateful for, the gifts from above, are relationships. Top line, the important, close, long-term relationships that God has blessed me with. Between family and friends, I just feel like God has just grabbed this bucket and he's poured it over my head. And most of it, I don't deserve. Most of it, I didn't do anything to earn or to do. I think I'm realizing, too, more and more, how uncommon this is. How uncommon this is for a lot of people. At least a lot of people in our culture, our part of the world. And this is as big a reason as any that I long for two things, really selfishly. And I want to keep it real with you today. This is from Lauren. This is certainly not in a Life Church teaching outline. This is for me. There's two things that I long for selfishly. I long to stay here for a very long time. I want to go long and I want to go deep with people. I don't want to be one who bounces around. My wife and I and my kids will be here. It'll be 5 years this July. And I'm already getting excited about that. And I'm excited. I'm jealous of some of you who have so much history with other people, with each other. I want to be here a long time. And I want to do my very, very best to teach you as your pastor, to show you with my life wonderful, real friendship, real community. The kind God wants for, I'm convinced God wants for every single one of us, a shared relationship with him and with each other. I know that sounds really idealistic, but it can happen. It does happen. It is happening in different pockets of the world, even in our community. We talk about making disciples a whole lot here at Colonial. We talk about our mission statement, our church's purpose. We exist as a church to make disciples who will unite Wichita Falls and impact the world introducing people to a shared relationship with him and with each other. That's to me what disciple making is. We can read about this in the written account of the first century New Testament community, the first Christian church. Luke wrote it down for us. He recorded for us what happened. He wrote in Acts 2, all the believers devoted themselves. It wasn't a half-hearted thing. They were all in. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper, another word for what we call here at Colonial Communion, and to prayer. In other words, this first church, it was a community of people who together, not individually, together were centered around Jesus. This was not a group that was centered around soccer or centered around the neighborhood association or all these other good things that some of us find community in. No, this was a community of people coming together often, centered around Jesus. A deep sense of awe came over them all. This changed them. And the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers, holy moly, check this out. All of them met together in one place and shared everything they had. You want to know, you want to see tangibly what real love looks like? They all came together and they shared everything they had. They sold their property and possessions and shared the money with those in need. In other words, they were family. It wasn't some once-a-week religious thing. They were family. They loved each other really, really well. They shared everything. They met every family need amongst them that they could. And then verse 46 says, they worshiped together at the temple each day. Whew, that's a lot. They met in homes for the Lord's Supper, opened up their homes, and they shared their meals with great joy and generosity. Some of you are one community away from everything changing, everything being radically different. Now, let's keep it real this morning. Nobody just backs into something like this. Community like this doesn't just happen. You're not going to show up at this church or some other church or something like it, and you're just going to, wow, that was cool. It just magically happened. No, we create this kind of community. I believe this. We create it with the way we love each other in the likeness and in the name of Jesus in a very intentional way. As we come together often. So let's finish with this. Let's finish with 3 specific qualities that I want to take from Craig Groeschel. Smart, good teacher up at Life Church in Oklahoma. He gives us 3 qualities of great community. These are 3 qualities, not the only 3, but I think these are really important qualities we should look for, we should try to make happen to find great community. The first one is this, and it might actually be the simplest, also might be the most fun. We have refrigerator rights. And it probably means exactly what some of you are thinking. It means that someone in my community, someone in my group, for example, here at Colonial, they come to my house, they don't have to knock. In fact, it offends me when they knock. They just walk in. Some of them are learning this more and more. And they just plop down. They just be. They want something to eat or drink, they don't have to ask. That's not how family works anyway, right? When you're a family, man, when I go see my parents, I'm 53. My mom is 77. I walk in, I get whatever I want out of the fridge. I don't ask my mom, is this okay, Mom? She's trying to spoil me still, right? What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. That's what family looks like. Think about how weird it would be if we didn't know each other very well and you invited me to your house. That's a little weird anyway, but if I showed up and you let me in, where would we sit? Probably in the living room, right? And that's where you take someone and you sit in the living room, and I probably sit on the couch. If you're in my community, you come over to my house, you sit up on the countertop, or you stand leaning up against the kitchen counter, or you sprawl out on the floor. But again, if we don't know each other very well, what would it be like if I came to your house, we're hanging out for a little while in the living room, and we're just small talking, keeping it really shallow probably, and then all of a sudden I just get up and I walk into your kitchen and I open up your refrigerator. And I'm scrounging through the refrigerator, and you're probably sitting in the chair in the living room going, what is up with this guy? Who does he think he is? And then I close the fridge, and I go over, and I'm looking cabinets, I'm looking in the pantry, and I'm digging through the pantry. And then eventually, I come back in the living room, and I've made myself a sandwich with a big pile of chips and some fruit. And I'm like, ooh, yikes, I'm sorry. I should have asked you, did you want anything in the kitchen? Can you imagine if that would happen? Now, in that moment, you probably wouldn't say anything to me. You're too kind. But for sure, after I leave, you're calling your closest friends. I got to tell you what just happened. This guy named Lauren, the guy with the girl's name, who's a pastor at Colonial, just strolls into my kitchen and makes himself a sandwich. Like, what in the world? I'm never going back to that church. The reason that would be weird is because that's not common for us. We're not that close, maybe. In that scenario, that hypothetical scenario, we don't have that trust built with each other. We don't have that level that's necessary to do some things without permission, right? But how different is it when you're family? When you're really family. This is what they had that we read about in Acts 2. It says, all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. Let me ask you this. How many people outside your family have refrigerator rights? Or think about it another way. With how many other people outside your family do you have refrigerator rights? It's an interesting thought to ponder over this week. And my strong opinion is if you answered 2 or 4, I firmly believe God wants you to have so many more. He wants that for us. Now, some of you introverts are like, 4's good, you know? But he wants us to have, he wants us to be family. God doesn't just want a personal, individual relationship with us. No, he wants a shared relationship with a whole community of us. He wants us together, I believe, to have refrigerator rights. Now, that's not all he wants. He also wants us to accept that we all have flawed feet. I'm going to be vulnerable with you for a moment. I have got some ugly feet. I mean, first of all, I have 9 toenails. This is way more than you want to know. I'm just going to let it all out here, okay? I have 9 toenails. I used to not wear open-toed shoes because I was so self-conscious about it. I stopped carrying years ago. But if you look at my left big toe, and I invite anybody to look anytime they want, it's missing a toenail. And it's just not very attractive. On top of that, I've got hair all over my feet like a hobbit, okay? I just don't have attractive feet. I've seen my dad's. I think I get it from him. Let's just say I didn't let Carrie see my feet for a while until she'd really fallen for me, okay? Let me try to remotely spiritualize what I'm saying here. Paul wrote this in his letter to the church, the first Christians in Rome. He says, accept each other just as Christ has accepted you so that God will be given glory. Accept each other just like Jesus has accepted you, flawed feet and all. And this is legit. When you and I accept and really love each other in the context of community, what is going to happen? Paul tells us. God is actually going to be given glory. He's going to be given praise, another English translation says. Isn't that cool? This doesn't sound very religious. This doesn't sound very spiritual. But Paul says here that when we accept and love each other, flawed feet and all, it's another tangible way to worship our Creator. It brings glory to God. I could go on and on and on about the close friends in my life. I've shared a little bit about that last week. The Christian community that I have experienced, that I am experiencing, even with so many of you. I could tell you so many great things about amazing people, but I want to keep it real. I could also tell you about people's flawed feet. Now, before anybody in my small group here, Colonial, starts freaking out. I'm not gonna share anything. I'm not gonna overshare. But every single one of the people in my community, in my friendship group, in my spiritual family, have flawed feet. The more I get to know them, the more flawed feet I see. And no, of course, I'm not talking about hairy, missing a nail feet. I'm talking, it's a metaphor. I could tell you about a friend that I'm close to who struggles with lust and with porn, and nobody else knows. I could tell you about a friend who has his priorities really mixed up with the way he's spending his time. I could tell you about a different friend, who in the past almost left his wife. I could tell you about a friend who on the outside looks like he's got it all together. But behind the curtain, he's upside down in debt. He's struggling with depression. He's filled with doubt. These are all people in my spiritual family, in my community, with flawed feet. I mean, I'll even be so honest as to share, there's people in my spiritual family now, just as there's been people in my spiritual family since I came to Christ many, many years ago, that I don't even really like that much. Because we're all just kind of messy, right? But because we're spiritual family, we've stayed together. We've tried to love each other well. When we've been in the wrong, we've owned it. When we've been wronged by the other, we've extended grace. We've kept short accounts. We've worked through it. And we have become more and more like Jesus. Flawed feet and all. This truth we're talking about, of flawed feet, it makes me think of one of my favorite accounts in the Old Testament about a man with literally flawed feet. His feet were messed up, they were deformed, and he was disfigured, and he couldn't walk. And what I've learned about the culture several thousand years ago at this time is if you had a disfigurement, a disability really of any kind, you were looked down upon. They would even spiritualize it and say, well, you must have done something awful. You're a sinner, or maybe your parents were sinners. This is deserved. And they were ostracized from community. They were disconnected. They were looked down upon by society. So here's this guy. Oh, well, you can't walk? Oh, you can't walk? Well, you're clearly a bad person. You're clearly a sinner. So there was this guy named Mephibosheth. I just love saying that name, Mephibosheth. And he couldn't walk. He was rejected by his community. But we read about this king. Talk about the top of the social ladder. This king who was so kind, so merciful to Mephibosheth. He showed him love, specifically because of another relationship. I won't bore you with the details. But because of a shared relationship with someone else, he extended mercy and kindness to Mephibosheth. And there's this way cool line we read in 2 Samuel chapter 9 that says this. And Mephibosheth, who was crippled in both feet, lived in Jerusalem, that's the capital city, and ate regularly at the king's table. How cool is that? He was lame in both feet. And the whole rest of the world rejected him. But the king accepted him and let him eat regularly at his table. Well, guess what? We all have flawed feet. And I've thought about this. What happens when we're sitting at the king's table? We can't see our feet. Nobody can see our feet. They're covered by the table of the king. We all come to the king's table. We pull up. We put our feet under the king's table, the king of all the kings, and we eat with each other and we love each other. And the flawed feet don't matter. It's a metaphor, but I love that picture. I hope that's powerful for you. We have refrigerator rights. We all have flawed feet. And then here's another metaphor for the day. We fight lions. A quality, for sure, of great Christian community together is that we fight lions. Peter, who was another one of the first leaders of the Christian church, he actually gives a warning to all of us as Christians, then and now. 1 Peter 5:8, he says, stay alert, watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. We probably don't think about this a lot. A lot of us don't think this way. The enemy is real. Evil in the world is real. There is an enemy. And what does he do? He prowls around like a lion. He's looking for someone to devour. I can't help but notice the connection right here in the Bible between Satan and cats, okay? I'm not sure how many of you heard me on a recent podcast episode share that I am, well, mildly put, I'm not a cat person. And this is one of several reasons right here. There's a biblical link I see right here between cats and the devil. I know that's a stretch. I digress. In all seriousness, we do have a spiritual enemy. He's real. And the Bible warns us that he's not just real, he's active. And he is prowling around like a lion, like a stealth, big, powerful cat, looking to devour us. Looking for opportunities, as Jesus said, to steal from us, to kill, to destroy anything that matters to the heart of God. I wanted to show a YouTube clip here, and it's really grainy, but I bet a lot of you have seen it, and I want to send you to this on your own time. Don't pull it up right now because you'll just be totally engrossed for about 8 minutes. There's a YouTube clip from about 16, 18 years ago that's the water buffalo versus the lions. Anybody, does that ring a bell for anybody? If you have seen it, you're going to remember. You know how many views on YouTube this particular video, water buffalo versus the lions, has? 89 million views. That's not a normal number for even these crazy viral YouTube clips. 89 million views. I promise you later, you can Google water buffalo versus lions. It's going to come up. Let me just describe what happened to you. It's mesmerizing. I was talking to Hannah, one of my girls, this morning about it. We're going to go home at lunch and watch this thing. It's a little dark, okay? Fair warning. But this clip starts out, it's these tourists in Africa. And they just have this primitive camera. Like I said, it's a long time ago, video camera. And you just see these water buffalo coming up to this big watering hole. I think the tourists are in a vehicle, probably for their own safety. You see a bunch of water buffalo coming up, it's a watering hole. And then you notice on the other end of the frame, there's these lions. I don't know how many, 3, 4, 5 lions. And they're just in the weeds waiting. And you see a couple baby calves amongst these water buffaloes, and your heart starts to go, oh no, I know where this is going. And sure enough, you watch it long enough, and these lions attack. And all the water buffalo just get the heck out of there. I mean, what's a water buffalo going to do against a lion, right? They can't protect themselves. They just take off, and sure enough, they go after this baby water buffalo. And they nail it. They grab it, and they fall into the water. And there's 2 or 3 lions on this baby, and your heart just sinks as you're watching this video. It's awful. It's awful. And thankfully, it's a little grainy. You can't see, but you just kind of imagining what's happening in that moment. And then you watch it long enough, and they're in the water on the edge of this watering hole, and I'm not making this up, out of the water comes an alligator. And now an alligator grabs the baby calf and starts pulling on it, and the lions are on the other, and it's literally this tug of war, and you're like, this is not my life. This is Africa. This is crazy. And this poor baby calf water buffalo is just going to be devoured by something awful. And finally, the lions they win. They pull the calf away. I don't know how injured the calf is at this point, but they pull the calf away, and all you see are 3, 4 lions, and it's lunchtime. And then, on the edge of the frame, you see this dark, big herd of water buffalo just trotting over. And they're not running. It's almost like this cocky walk. They're just coming up, and I don't know how many. It looked like there was a couple hundred water buffaloes. And they come right up to the lions, and they start to surround the lions, and you can see the lions are kind of like just clawing at them, like, get away, get away. And the climax of this video is when finally, I'd like to think it's Mama Water Buffalo. I don't know who this is, but this big water buffalo just comes in with its horns, and you see this cat just go woo, through the air, and they scatter. They take off, and they rescue this little baby calf. This whole big herd takes off. Calf's walking with them. Pretty cool. Well worth the watch. 89 million views. You should check it out. Water buffalo versus the lions. Here's why I share that. If water buffalo can do that, what can the church of Jesus do together? What difference can we make for each other? And how can we impact the world around us? When the enemy comes, if we're in real community, plural, with brothers and sisters in Jesus, family, we can have each other's backs. We can pray for each other. We can fight with and for each other. We can fight for each other's marriages. We can face anything. We can face cancer. We can face debt. We can face depression. We can do it together instead of going through these things alone. We need and we want the strength of the body of Jesus, the body of Christ, standing with us in the hardest of times, loving us, fighting with us, grieving with us, encouraging us. We may be one community away from changing the course of our lives. And I've already implied I have experienced it at some significant level. I am experiencing it, and I'm just telling you, and some of you who have experienced it or are experiencing it, you know, it's so good. It's so good. And then the rest of the world watches us and starts going, holy moly, you guys believe some weird stuff, but I want that. I want what you have. Man, the way you guys love each other, the way you share with each other, the way you sacrifice what you want or what you need for each other. Tell me what this is. And the words of Jesus actually come to life. The words that Jesus said, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. The way you experience community with each other is going to prove to a watching world that you are my people. To those of you who say you don't know how to explain Christianity to maybe your coworkers or to your family members that don't know Jesus, or you don't know how to share boldly the gospel, the good news of Jesus with words, I got some really great news for you. One of the greatest ways that you can share boldly with your friends and your neighbors and your coworkers and your classmates is to love really, really well the people in your spiritual family in such a contagious way that people watching want to know what you have, want to have what you have. And all you have to end up finding the courage to say, oh, this is not because I'm a good person. This is not because we're good people. This is because he is really good. He's really good. He's changed us. Oh, you want to experience this too? Yeah, it's all about Jesus. Jesus has just loved us so much. He's died for us. He's given us so much. He's given us new life. He's changed our perspective. Yeah, you want some of that? Yeah, come on in. Come on in. I want to invite you into a shared relationship with him and with each other. I got a very frank question for you this morning to wrap up. Really frank question to end this series with, okay? Be honest with yourself. Are you relationally poor? Are you still just one community away, if you're honest, from everything changing? And then ultimately, oh my goodness, why are we talking about this if you're not asking this question? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What risks are you going to take? What intentionality are you going to bring to the table? We don't back into this. You got to want it. You got to take some risks with people who might let you down, who might disappoint you, or you might let them down or disappoint them, and that's part of it, taking those risks.